In this video, we're gonna be talking about top 5 intense plane disaster on the runway. Number 5. Air France Flight 4590, Charles de Gaulle Airport, year 2000. It was a normal day as it happens every day. Flight engineer Dil Jardino ensured to the pilot that they have used 800 kilos fuel. This was Concorde supersonic passenger jet plane. In the short taxi to the runway, the plane's 4 engines have already used as much fuel as the average car uses in 6 months. After checking all the systems of the plane, they got clearance from the air traffic controller. The plane reached V1 speed or high speed and was going too quickly to take off. Suddenly, the second engine caught fire and the plane begins changing its direction to the left. The flight engineer urged pilot to abort the takeoff, but it was too late to abort the takeoff, and the plane slams into nearby airport hotel. Number 4. Crash between KLM and Pan Am, Los Rodeos Airport, 1977, Spanish island of Tenerife. It was a busy day than it's ever been. On this day, so many planes were in taxiways and waiting for taxi clearance. One of the planes waiting to get to Las Palmas is Pan Am Flight 1736. After getting taxi clearance, they got to the runway and ready to take off. First officer Bragg was unfamiliar with the airport, so he was following the map. A KLM 747 stopped in front of them to refuel. The pilot did not notice it because of the dense fog. Then he slowly increased the speed of the aircraft. After going some distance, the plane became visible, but it was too late. The pilot tried hard to get the plane to take off, but by then it had collided with the KLM 747 and crashed. Number 3. September 7, 2011, Tunashna Airport. It was the afternoon time. UX service Flight 9633. First officer Igor was the airline's vice president of flight operations. In his nearly 30 years of flying, he racked up more than 13,000 hours in the air. And beside him was Captain Anders Solomon Save, one of his closest friends. However, when they were going through the runway, the plane got its V1 speed, which was 119 miles per hour. The flight engineer had the vigilant eye on takeoff speed. It's his job to advise the captain when the plane reaches takeoff speed. After gaining the speed 200 miles per hour, the flight engineer declared to take off and the captain displaced the yoke to rotate the elevators up to about 10 degrees, and it was enough for making the takeoff altitude and airplane lifting off. But the airplane stayed on the ground. The runway was 3,280 yards long. The crew must lift up before the 2,800 yard mark, otherwise they won't be able to stop safely. The plane had enough speed, but instead of lifting off, the Act 42 kept going fast to the end of the runway. After despair of trying, finally they succeed, but the plane hit a tower at the end of the runway and exploded. By the way, did you subscribe? If you have already done, you are very welcome. Number 2. Addis Egypt International Airport, year 2007, Garuda, Indonesia, Flight 200. A Boeing 737 flies high overhead. The crew of Garuda, Flight 200, is getting ready to land. It was a short flight from the capital of Indonesia, Jakarta, to Yogyakarta, which is 265 miles southeast of the city of Jakarta. The plane was flying through strong wind and the pilot was afraid of this. They were approaching to the runway and the plane was in high speed, which was not enough for landing. There was 133 passengers on board. The plane was shaking and vertically dropping too fast. Finally, it landed and bounced and kept bouncing, but it was not stopping. Many passengers were alive, but the fire was spreading fast. Number 1. In 2013, Asian Airlines Flight 214 was heading from South Korea to the San Francisco International Airport, California. Many of the others 291 passengers were Chinese, including a group of teenagers on their way to summer camp in the United States. While the plane were just few meters away from the runway, they got their runway clearance for landing. First officer completed the landing checklist and declared to land. Everything was okay, and it was going to be a normal landing like any other flight. Before gazing anything a little away from the runway, the altitude of the aircraft dropped drastically and rear tail was broken by the crash landing. An engine was burning. If fire spreads to the fuel tanks, the plane could explode. Many of them were dangerously injured. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed the video.